The following is a presentation of the Broadband universe, brought to you in part by Vitruvi, the end-to-end GIS-based construction management platform that connects asset owners, operators, general contractors, and subcontractors for unmatched project control and collaboration. Manage every aspect of your telecommunications or utility infrastructure construction program with Vitruvi. Build faster, reduce costs, improve quality. Book your demo today on vitruvisoftware.com to see how we can help you build at scale. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Broadband Universe podcast. I'm Craig Corbin. It is a pleasure to welcome our guests today, Niki Carnahan and Seth Thompson. Niki, Seth, welcome to the Broadband Universe.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you having us on.
Absolutely. It is always a blast to catch up with people that are active in so many ways in this industry. And Niki, I've known you for quite a while. I know better than 3 years at Vitruvi, and obviously proud to have Vitruvi as one of the sponsors of the Broadband Universe. And Seth, your time with Calix, you have, I know, enjoyed that. So we want to get into the careers within the industry, but then expand the conversation a little bit and see if we can find some things that might have an impact in your successes in the broadband world. So, Niki, if you could, for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about your role with Vitruvi.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me on this. I'm really excited to see how this goes. So, yeah, Vitruvi, we're a construction management software very geared towards fiber construction, wireless construction, and all things infrastructure. So I am in the business development side. I help with just getting the word out there, like, here's Vitruvi. I go to lots of those conferences and trade shows. You might see us with these Get Shit Done shirts. And yes, it is that emoji is Get Shit Done, because that's really what we do. We help companies, ISPs, and contractors build out networks faster through our construction management software, and I look after the business development efforts there.
You touched on something that I want to spend some time talking about, and that's all the trade shows that you're in attendance with. And so that's such a big part of what you have enjoyed, I know, in your time with Vitruvi. Seth, of course, your role as a regional cloud manager with Calix, covering the Iowa footprint there. Tell us about your role with Calix.
Yeah, so again, thanks for having us on here. So I've been with Calix for just over a year now. Been really, really exciting. It's kind of one of those things where part of the time I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's already been a year. And then part of the time I look back and I'm like, holy smokes, it's only been a year. Like, that's crazy. But really, my duties here really focus on working with Iowa service providers in particular, which we have quite a few. I'm really focused on the Calix Cloud portfolio and driving adoption there. So a lot of those conversations focus around driving transformation with service providers from, hey, how do we change from maybe the legacy telecom provider that's been around for 100 years as the phone shop to the next generation service provider.
And quite honestly, what you just described is a transformational process. Not easy, and Niki, I would say that that's probably applicable as well with what Vitruvi brings to the market. You are, in essence, re-educating providers with how to get the most bang for the buck, so to speak, as they work with evolving in a very rapid fashion what's going on in the industry. I'm always curious about what the driving force is for anyone in our industry that led them to get into the business. And Niki, we'll start with you. What was the passion that got you into the world of Vitruvi software and communications?
Yeah, well, I woke up one day and wished I worked at Vitruvi. No, that really wasn't how it happened, but I started this job when I was still in school. I was finishing up my undergrad degree, and just my boss, Vitruvi was just getting started, so they were looking for help, and came across Vitruvi and started working part-time, which turned into, that was my first exposure to software or like telecom in general. And it was very interesting, and just being immersed in the industry for the first few months and the first few months really, I just saw how there are so many great people out there, and they're all passionate about connecting rural broadband. For example, I get to work with people that love what they're doing, and they're making an impact in the world. Even if it's one small little piece of the grand scheme of things, I feel like we are making an impact. So that's really how I just started, because I heard about Vitruvi, heard about a company that needed help, and I'm like, sure, let's go for it. And then that turned into like something that I never thought it would be this interesting or this significant, and I'm really glad I'm here.
Well, and I am glad that you have found such a wonderful organization to be a part of, and one that is truly making a positive impact for so many providers around the world. Seth, same question to you. What was the driving force that led you into this career path?
Yeah, well, not too dissimilar from Niki in that it was by accident, right? It's never anything where you grow up one day and you're like, I want to work in broadband. I started my career after I graduated school actually in commercial financing, so really not much to do with broadband at all. I was in those type of roles for about 5.5, 6 years, and then eventually was introduced to a network VAR, value-added reseller, really, really great company. I worked there for about a year and was actually calling on broadband service providers, selling everything from refurbished ONTs to core networking, routing and switching stuff. And so that kind of exposed me to the broadband space. I immediately gained an appreciation for it because I was calling on folks all over the country, but you start getting into this community and you realize how big it is, but how small it is at the same time. A lot of folks know each other. I always joke with my my coworkers internally. It's kind of a cannibalizing industry because it's the same people with different logos or moving between shops. But that's how I got into the broadband space and immediately grew a passion for it because I saw the impact in the communities. I grew up in a small town. I was working with a lot of service providers in Iowa, and then Calix eventually entered the picture for me. And made the move over here in July of last year, 21, and it was a fantastic choice. Really glad I made the move, and that just caused me to double down right on the broadband space, getting to know the folks that are working here, and also just the impacts that it's having and the depth of conversations around not just, hey, it's not just technology, but cliche, but it's everything that comes with it, right? The people that can now work from home, the small communities that are now thriving again, kids that can do school virtually, all these different things. I'm reading Ray Dalio's Principles right now, and he talks a lot about meaningful work, meaningful relationships, and I'm like, that is just to a T what we're doing here, and that's what keeps me so engaged in what I'm doing.
Well, congratulations on having surpassed that first year mark with Calix, and what an interesting time to have gotten into this business. But
yes.
Quite honestly, it's sort of the golden age, if you will. And Niki, I know you share the same thought with respect to the opportunities that are there career-wise, the opportunities that are there for providers to expand what they are offering to their subscribers, to the people that they serve. And so there's no shortage of interesting approaches to be taken. Niki, I wanted to touch on, from the standpoint of the passion that you mentioned bringing to your role with Vitruvi and the industry as a whole. And I know you're active in the Women in Fiber and serve as a co-chair for the Professional Development and Membership Subcommittee of that organization. I'm curious to know more about that. Talk about that, if you would.
Yeah, so within that subcommittee, so the Women in Fiber group is associated with the Fiber Broadband Association, and within the Women in Fiber group, we have different subcommittees. And one of the subcommittees that I'm a co-chair on is the Professional Development and Mentorship subcommittee, where it's really to help ladies connect with mentors and mentees and just match them up and allow them an opportunity to grow and talk about their career and concerns and how they want to better themselves, and also for people like ladies that have been in the industry for much longer can help the younger generation, like folks like me, I guess, and older people as well. Like you can always use a mentor and someone that's within your organization or maybe outside of your organization, or just really we're putting together a framework to allow people to connect and have this whole mentorship program going. So I'm very happy to be a part of that. It's really exciting. It's really cool to see how many ladies are in the industry and how we're getting so much support from everyone. And I really like it.
No question. You're watching the Broadband Universe podcast, brought to you in part by Lit Communities. Light up your community. You deserve better internet. By Vetro Fiber Map, radically simpler fiber management. By On Track, proven leader in connectivity. And by Vitruvi, build faster, reduce costs, and improve quality. Our guests today, Niki Carnahan, business development lead with Vitruvi, and Seth Thompson, regional cloud manager with Calix, serving the Iowa area. And Seth, Niki made reference to mentorship that's so important in this industry. I'm curious from your perspective, who you have found to serve in that role in your development in the last year with Calix.
Yeah, I'll say there's a couple ways I would speak to this. Both internally at Calix, I've been really fortunate to have fantastic leadership. From my direct leader, Chris Walker, he was one of the initial people to really push me to come on board here and pushes me to continue to grow. He's been a really, really good person to have in my life, and both in knowing sales and knowing the industry, but pushing me to continue to develop myself. But Calix also has a lot of really, really great avenues for employees to continue to develop, whether that is, like you said, one-on-one mentorship programs, continuing education. Something that's appealing to Calix, when I first came on, was how much they invest in continued development, whether it's the simple things like a membership to Audible for all Calix employees so you can listen to audiobooks, or full-on continuing education with services like Coursera or Exec Online or stuff like that if you want more formalized stuff. And there's just a ton of fantastic leaders. The other thing that I would point to there, which again, it's nothing formal or nothing at Calix, but Niki made reference to how welcoming people are in this industry, and I've found just in my couple years, there's a lot of people that are even customers of mine that have served as fantastic coaches for me on how to engage with folks in the industry, what's relevant. Hey, here's where I really think a lot of the value you bring is. When you're having these conversations, it might make sense to take it this way. And that's been a really cool thing, because that's not necessarily something I had in the past, specifically from customers and other peers in the industry.
That's a great segue, Seth, because you mentioned the term of coaching. And interestingly, both you and Niki are involved in athletics from a competitive standpoint and have for quite a while. I'm curious how that has impacted your role, your respective roles within the industry. And Niki, you, of course, anyone who has followed you on social media has no doubt seen quite a few of the ice dancing videos that you've posted, and so competitive there. Give us a little background on the correlation between being a skater, a competitive skater, and the world of communications.
Yeah, so I think there's actually, although figure skating and telecommunications or construction is not really, no one really think they go hand in hand, but I like to think that they do. There are lots of, especially around like mindset and like even coaching and personal growth and like overall improvement. So I guess that ties back to my like skating career, how it all kind of started. But I've been skating for about, oh dear, put me on the spot here. I've been skating for about, I think, 18, almost 20 years or so.
Wow.
And so I'm probably in skates more than I'm in actual shoes. And I've had lots of coaches in the past, and I've also coached, and I still do coach every now and then. So I've kind of looked at it from different perspectives around how you need to know how to be coached in order to coach. So same as leadership, you need to know how to follow in order to lead. So I really look at it that way, and also efficiency, trying to make every minute that you're spending count, because when you're trying to balance multiple different things at a high level, then if you're wasting a minute, that's a minute you're never going to get back. So I really look at it in those two different ways, and I like to tie in things I learned in skating, like how I make a mistake, but you have to just refocus and keep going, or just small things like that can really tie into telecom and the stuff that I do at Vitruvi. So I think that's what I usually try to post on LinkedIn.
Sure. Yeah, a couple of things you mentioned I think are key. Not only the competitive nature that anyone of us who is in athletics and as a competitive runner, my whole life, that has been a driving force, but the time management is key. And I think that if you have spent any time in athletics, and Seth, I know, being a collegiate baseball player and now into powerlifting, you learn how to manage your time because you have to be the ultimate student athlete when you're in college. Talk about your background in athletics and how that has a correlation now.
Yeah, so I'm not quite to Niki's level where I'm traveling the world or anything like that, but like a lot of folks, right? Grew up playing all sorts of sports, played a lot of baseball growing up, and did play a little bit of college baseball as well before I transferred over to the University of Iowa and joined the powerlifting team there, which is club sport, right? It's not anything that's NCAA sponsored, but that's really what took me down that path to where I'm at now, still competing in powerlifting. And it's interesting because, like you said, there's a lot of correlation and carryover between what I did in baseball to what I did in powerlifting to now what I do in my careers. Time management's definitely a thing, especially as I have a 3-year-old now. So when I train and when I choose to compete and everything else, I have to be so laser focused on when I'm going to go, exactly when I'm going to get done and everything else. But I think that the two biggest things that I would point to and how I see that carry over to my career, number one is process, right? I'm very much a process person when I'm chasing anything. So, and well, just like running with powerlifting, right? The sets and the reps you're going to be doing for the next 12, 16 weeks, whatever it is as you get ready for a competition. And sticking to that, right? Even when things are hard or maybe you're like, is this even working? Mm-hmm. So that's a big thing to me. And I do think when you've seen process work once, the first time I ever saw that payoff was in my baseball career. Mm-hmm. When you've seen the hard work and the process work once and you've done it once, doing hard things again is easier, whatever the hard thing is. And so I think that's a big part of it. I continue to see that in powerlifting. The other big thing, and this is specifically around lifting, is, process is important. You've got to have some agility and willingness to change and learn new things too, because you're going to hit certain points where what you've done forever is not going to continue to make you better. You've hit your ceiling with that, and in order to raise your ceiling, you need to do things differently. And I think both as a sales professional, that's absolutely true, and for our customers, that's absolutely true. There's certainly it's at kind of a pivot point right now where people are starting to see that and make those decisions as well.
There is no substitute for that sweat equity, either in athletics or in your professional careers. And, you talk about competition. Niki, I know that you are, to Seth's point, traveling the world competitively. You've got a domestic competition coming up in Philadelphia right around the corner, and then it's off to Japan. Talk about that.
Yeah, so we're competing in Philadelphia in about 2 weeks or so we're getting ready for that. So like as Seth was mentioning, all those reps and the training you put into that, we start planning weeks in advance. And every minute counts, and every day that we're on the ice, we have a set routine of what we need to do, and no matter how horrible we're feeling, we've got to do it. And whatever time it is in the day. If it's 6 a.m., you got to do it because I have meetings in the rest of the day. So we stick to that schedule. And then, so that's a smaller one in Philadelphia. And then in a few weeks, a month after that, so end of October, we're going to be going to Japan and this is right after the Calix conference, by the way. The best conference that I love the Calix show. And I swear I'm not being paid to say this, but right after the Calix show, we're going to sectionals in Japan, and that's going to be our first time competing in Japan as a new ice dance team. So really excited about that. Finally, we get to do that. Last year it was all canceled with COVID, so this year we're ready, and everything seems to be aligning. So excited about that.
Well, we are excited for you and your ice dance partner, and wish you the absolute best, both in Philadelphia and in the competition internationally. And we'll be interested to follow the results of your effort. As we begin to wind down the conversation here today, I did want to sort of pick your brain a little bit from both your perspectives on what you would share with your peers. You know, being part of the younger generation in this industry, and having seen, I think, both great success and tremendous promise within this industry. What would you share with your peers who might be considering a career in this industry? And Niki, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I guess maybe two things. The first thing would be that, like, although it does seem intimidating with all these acronyms and new things, and it's all techy and challenging, everyone's been there, and I feel like I'm still there. And it is a process, but if you don't know something, just ask. And the second thing really is like resiliency, because there are a lot of people are very forward thinking and are looking for ways to improve and do things better and have new ideas, but there are some people that aren't, and they're more resistant to it. So, and just know that there's always going to be both of that. So just keep going, stick to the process, trust the process, and yeah, and good luck, and reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think that's the best thing. Like all three of that. I'd love to help whenever anyone's getting into the industry.
And that is fantastic. And same question, final word to you, Seth.
Yeah, you know, I think you put it well, Niki. There's just a lot happening in this industry. You know, I'd point to one big thing. The industry is way bigger than what people think when they just think broadband. You know, so Niki, you mentioned it. You're not technical. I'm not technical either, right? All the acronyms, everything else. But there's a spot for everyone if you want to be a part of this industry. You know, there's software companies like Vitruvi and like Calix, right? There are traditional telcos that are doing all sorts of different offerings of technologies. There are accounting roles, there are HR, like everything, right? So I just, you know, I don't want people to fall into the mindset of like, oh, it's broadband, and they think of a telephone company of 100 years ago, and that's very technology-driven people. It's a very rewarding industry, and regardless of what role or like what function you would be in, there's something for everybody. So I would just keep that in mind, and keep in mind too that there's a ton of opportunity for growth. So anybody that wants work that's meaningful, that wants the opportunity, you know, to continue to grow in their career and really become part of an industry that we said, it's big, but it's small at the same time. There's just a lot here for you.
That is great. And I know that the future of this industry is in very good hands. And thank you so much, Seth and Niki, for what you're doing respectively with some fantastic organizations and helping out a lot of people everywhere. It's been a great visit. Look forward to checking in with both of you down the line to find out what's going on with Calix, with Vitruvi. Niki, I got to find out what happens in your ice dancing competitions coming up. So we will look forward to that. On behalf of Seth and Niki, I'm Craig. Thanks for letting us be a part of your day. We'll see you next time right here on the Broadband Universe. So long, everyone.